Start by first disconnecting the vehicle's battery. Locate the vehicle's factory suspension module and wiring harness, which in this case is located underneath the passenger side kick panel. Here we have removed the kick panel to expose the suspension control unit. Remove the tie wraps retaining the bundled factory wire harness from the suspension control unit connector. Begin by removing the wiring harness connector from the suspension control unit. Remove the factory wire harness connector end cap to gain access to the individual wires. Remove the tie wrap retaining the bundled wire harness on the factory suspension connector and slide it out of the factory connector housing. Identify and remove the correct pin indicated in the instructions for your specific vehicle from the factory wire harness. Remove the wire you identified from the connector by pressing the tab on the pin using a small pick in a two-step process. Press the tab on the pin and gently pull upward until the pin stops. Then press the tab again to completely remove from the connector by gently pulling upward. Carefully remove the electrical tape on the harness to expose the wires in the harness bundle. Insert the pin that you've removed from the factory harness parallel to the corresponding pin in the RENNtech wiring harness connector. Insert the corresponding RENNtech wire back into the same position in which the wire was previously removed in the factory harness. Remove the next wire, which corresponds to your vehicle, from the factory connector by pressing the tab on the pin, once again using a small pick in a two-step process. First press the tab on the pin and gently pull upward till the pin stops. Then press the pin again while gently pulling upward to completely remove the pin from the connector. Insert the wire once again into the corresponding pin on the RENNtech wiring harness connector until an audible click is heard. Insert the wire from the RENNtech harness back into the corresponding pin on the factory harness connector. Refer at this time to your installation instructions to ensure and identify the proper pin. It is important to note that the pin removed from the factory connector is reinserted into the RENNtech harness parallel to the wire that will replace it in the factory connector. Identify the red power wire in your vehicle's factory harness. Refer to your installation instructions for the appropriate pin number of the power wire. Using pliers, crimp the T-tap until an audible click is heard. Using the supplied T-taps, repeat the same process for the ground wire. Slide the factory connector back into the factory wire harness housing. Rebundle the factory wiring harness, leaving the two wires that you previously inserted into the factory connector from the RENNtech harness out of this bundle as to simplify the remainder of the installation. Reinstall a zip tie on the factory connector to secure the wiring. Reinstall the factory end cap until a click is heard. Reinsert the connector into the factory control module. Remove the small connector on the factory control unit. Remove also the small CAN connector on the vehicle's control unit. Remove the wrapping from the factory harness. Cut the zip tie securing the factory wiring harness. Remove the end cap on the small connector and slide off. Slide connector out of the factory housing. Referring to your installation instructions, remove the corresponding pin from the factory connector. Insert the pin from the factory harness into the RENNtech connector. Reinsert the RENNtech wire back into the factory harness. Continue this process for all remaining wires. Slide the connector back into the factory housing. Rebundle and resecure the factory wiring harness on the small connector. Reinstall the factory connector end cap and reinstall on the factory control unit. Remove the cover on the small 2-wire CAN connector by inserting a pick or similar tool into the slot until the cover pops off. Remove the CAN connector wires on the factory connector and reinsert into the RENNtech connector. Do this one at a time as to not confuse location. Note: the green wire with the stripe will indicate CAN high. The green wire without the stripe will indicate the CAN low. Insert the CAN wires from the RENNtech connector into the factory connector. Replace the end cap on the CAN connector. Reinsert the CAN connector into the factory control unit. Connect the T-taps included with the DLM module to the vehicle's power and ground wires as indicated by the schematic. Install the cover on the RENNtech connector. Open the connector by moving the black lever counterclockwise. Install the pass-through device. This is to confirm that the installation was performed correctly and act as a jumper wire to confirm operation before installing the electronics. The pass-through also allows the vehicle to return to the stock ride height settings for service. After installing the pass-through and confirming operation, remove the pass-through device and install the RENNtech digital lowering module. Pull the lever in a clockwise direction to secure connector to RENNtech digital lowering module. Confirm operation of the system by noting the green LED is lit on the digital lowering module. We recommend securing the digital lowering module to a solid surface using double-sided tape or other suitable means. Install the supplied USB cable and route it so it can be easily accessed in the future. Replace the kick panel. Reinstall the carpeting. At this point, the installation is complete. You may reinstall any components removed for installation, and remember to reconnect the vehicle's battery.